Thank you for hanging out with me today on The Abyss. I'm Ty Phoenix, and you know we go deep here, so I'm excited about today's guest. She is best known for being a porn star, but she's since retired from the porn industry. She's now a sex educator. She's a grandmother, a mother. She's a dynamic person. Camilla Rouse is our guest today, and she's going to talk to us about everything from relationships to, of course, sexuality and life in general. So we are now about to go deep into the abyss. Are you ready?
Hello.
Hey.
Great to see you. And it wasn't planned that we're both wearing yellow, sitting at a yellow table on yellow chairs.
Right.
It just worked out that way.
That's right. That's
it's
right.
Divine intervention.
Exactly.
So I'm here with the one and only, the lovely Camilla Rouse.
Yes.
Sinnamon Love.
Sinnamon Love.
And briefly, we have other things to talk about because this is the abyss where we go deep. But for those who, if you've been living under a rock and you don't know who Sinnamon Love is, give a brief background history on who Sinnamon Love is.
I am a retired adult film star. I'm a sex educator. I'm single in Brooklyn. I am a mother of three, a grandmother of one. I am a social activist, and I believe in truth, love, and all things black, basically.
Okay, all things black.
All things black.
All black everything.
All black everything.
Except when we wear yellow.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now, retired adult film star, sex educator.
Yes.
So if I'm getting educated on sex from you, what are you teaching me?
It varies. I teach about, I've done a great deal of writing about black female sexuality, feminism, and pornography. I've written about, my mission in life is to redefine sex education for adults. I really believe that black and brown women are greatly lacking in appropriate sex education. I think that we have to re-educate ourselves. We've been so trapped under abstinence education, through Christianity and our community, and shamed for having a sexual identity, that we have to be re-educated so that we can be healthy human beings. And that for me is probably one of the most important things that I can teach women. I think that we have been, and men also. I think that men have to be re-educated about, not only sex but pornography, how to view their learning to take women at face value and not seeing them as strictly fantasy, and not having expectations from their partners of being porn stars, looking at porn from a perspective of being industry and not reality. It's just so important. Like, I get emails all the time from guys who are like, how can I get my wife to be, how can I bring the freak out of my wife? And it's like, well, patience, conversation.
Okay.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't expect her to be a professional
So it's possible.
actress. Oh yeah, it's absolutely possible. But the thing is, it's like, we're professional athletes. When you look at somebody on camera, that's a professional athlete. It's just like, I don't expect my man to go out and, shoot hoops with his boys and make threes every time. Like, do you know what I'm saying? So you can't expect your partner to do exactly the same things that other people.
Sex isn't robotic.
It's not robotic. It's like you're looking at a performer on camera the same way that you would if you were looking at a mainstream movie. It's no different. Like the physical act is, removed. It's still a fantasy. It's still a script. It's still a business, as opposed to this is what I expect my partner to be doing. So I think it's important, like, to get men to think of women outside of that sexual fantasy realm, and be open to the idea of breaking down the Madonna whore complex so that they can have a full sexual relationship with their partner.
Okay, now the business of at home, in the bedroom with your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever. Both of your boyfriends. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. That happens.
Look, I'm trying to make this entertaining, okay?
Yeah. That happens.
Or your girlfriends, whatever.
Or both of them, yeah.
You like it, I love it.
Right.
All right. You don't have cameras at home.
I mean, some people do.
So, well, on special occasions. But in the business of shooting pornography.
Right.
My question is, when you're having sex on camera, do you have an orgasm every time?
For me, yes. I can't say that for everybody else, but for me, absolutely. Because I know my body. And I, just like I would if I was with a partner in bed, outside of the business, I've practiced enough with myself to where I know what makes me happy. I know what makes me orgasm. So I don't necessarily need my partner to give me pleasure.
To please yourself.
To please myself. Like I can, it's nice to have a body there, but I know how to make myself have an orgasm. So when I'm on camera, I feel like, I'm already getting paid. So I might as well have a good time.
You might as well enjoy yourself.
I might as well enjoy myself. If I wanted a job that I was going to hate, I could be working in somebody's office making $13 an hour. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And not having an orgasm.
And not having an orgasm at the same time.
Exactly.
So it's like I'm already there. I might as well have a good time. Now, I can't say that for everybody. I don't know what everybody else's situation is, but I enjoyed, I had an opportunity when I was in the business to only work with people who I wanted to work with. People, ultimately, directors and producers, they're producing a commercial product. They want it to sell. So they want people to work with other people who they want to have sex with, who they have fantastic chemistry with.
Of course.
So that the product is its most commercially viable. So that makes it very easy when you're working with someone who's, tall, dark, and handsome and has, a nice member. I don't know how dirty I could get, but
go all in, girl.
It's nice when it's easy when you're working with somebody who you know that you can have a good time with.
Sure. Now, for the 25-year-old woman, 35-year-old woman, 45-year-old woman, 65-year-old woman who might see this, and she's like, nobody knows this, but I've never had an orgasm.
Yeah.
I can't come. And there's millions of women like this, right?
Right.
This is not an anomaly.
Absolutely.
What do you say to that woman who says, I can't come, I don't know how to do it, I've never done it?
The first thing I tell women is to visit their doctor. Find out if there is any, have their hormones checked. Make sure that that they have enough estrogen and progesterone in their body so that they are able to experience physical pleasure. One of the things that I've learned as I've gotten older, I'll be 45 this year. I've been going through menopause for 3 years.
Okay.
And one of the things that I've learned is that when your body starts to reduce the amount of estrogen and progesterone in your body, then you have, your clitoris can shrink. You start to lose your sex drive.
Yes.
Your ability to orgasm decreases. A lot of people don't realize this, but the number one cause of sexual dysfunction in women is a condition called it's a condition that causes vaginal dryness. It's called vaginal atrophy.
Okay.
And that is caused by the lack of estrogen in the vagina itself produces estrogen, and it's what causes moisture in the vagina.
Yes.
So as your hormones shift.
Speaking of moisture,
I
gotta stay hydrated.
It's but as your estrogen decreases in the body, your vagina starts to become extremely dry. It becomes extremely painful, and there's this cycle. The vagina is a muscle like anything else. So the more you use it, the more the vagina produces moisture naturally. As your hormones decrease, you can't produce moisture. It becomes dry. You can tear. You can rip. You can bleed. It becomes painful, and that makes it very, very difficult for women to even want to have sex. And nobody ever talks about it. A lot of times the vaginal estrogen creams and suppositories that can assist with that problem are not covered by insurance, even though Viagra is. So you can
you imagine calling MetLife, be like, my pussy won't get wet.
Yes.
I need you guys to cover this.
However, it is the leading cause of sexual dysfunction in women. And so you go to your GYN and they do all of the necessary tests that you have to do so that they can prescribe you the medication that you need so that you can get it covered because it is a medical necessity.
Okay.
So it's like, but that's the first thing I always tell women. And then I tell them to explore themselves, to figure out what makes them tick. I mean, men since way back have been given permission to like look at pornography, to use that as a tool for self-pleasure.
Pick up strange women for self-pleasure.
Pick up strange women. But even like when you think about like, I've met so many men who tell me that their first experiences with porn or with sex was like a video that the uncle left in the VCR. Or for older men,
Royal is our cameraman. He's over here like
nodding his head.
She's right.
Or even or back in the day, it would be a magazine that your father, uncle, dad, grandfather left sitting in the closet.
My ex-husband used to talk about it all the time.
All the time. And I actually was talking with a hip hop artist who comes from a Muslim background. He was saying that in his faith, it's very common for to give the women porn so that they can learn what the men like, and so that when they get married, they know how to please their partners. And so it's really it's really interesting that we, like in American society, we don't give women that permission to be able to explore. And it also helps to be able to look at something and say, oh, this turns me on when I see this. This is interesting to me. I want to try that. Like, how can I explain this to my partner? Well, now you have visual media that helps you to explain, hey, I want to try that. That looks like it could be a good time, and also just to explore one's own body. Like, I think that we should be touching ourselves all the time.
All the time.
We start off touching ourselves when we're, you see it in young children. They don't know shame. So you see them sometimes, they may put their hand in their pants.
Babies can climax.
They explore themselves. And we tell them, no, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, but we should be allowing them the freedom to explore their bodies. We can teach them about privacy and teach them about consent and all of those things that matter so that they don't have the shame about their bodies. But for the women who are already have that shame, I think that you have to explore. You have to, when you're in the shower, touch your body. Find what feels good to you. Find what parts of your body you like being touched. Because it might not be your genitals. It might be the side of your neck.
Some people have nipple orgasms.
Yeah, it could be.
Anywhere.
I like being kissed on my neck. Like, that makes me feel fantastic. But I also know that I don't want you sucking on it really hard. Like, I want it to be, it's like I know how to verbalize to my partners what it is that I like.
Choke me, but don't asphyxiate me.
Right.
I don't want to die.
I don't want to die. However, choke me a little bit, and reading. I mean, I remember being, when I was in probably middle school, I started reading a lot of books about, they were mostly not rom-com, like not, romantic novels. It wasn't like Harlequin romance.
Right.
But I was reading things like Delta of Venus and, Little Women, books by Nice Men and Henry Miller.
Were you a Judy Blume person?
I was a Judy Blume person.
Me too.
And also like V.C. Andrews. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of my information from books and the things that made me feel good. And for some people, it's trashy ghetto romance novels. But giving yourself that permission to feel whatever you feel and exploring your body so you can direct your partner to what it is that feels good to you.
Yeah, self-pleasure.
Self-pleasure is a huge thing. And also, like, I think that, because so many women, I think the statistics is like 1 in 8 women has been molested as a child or will be raped in their lifetime. I think in Black women, it's like 1 in 5, seeking out therapy for whatever issues that you have that might be harboring, that might be preventing you from experiencing pleasure. I know I've met women who who have a touch aversion, and it's like, and
because they haven't healed from
past trauma. Okay. So it's like before you can even, we have this expectation that we put on ourselves of needing to be able to reach a climax, and we haven't even done the internal work that would allow us to be able to do that. So it's like, how can you expect yourself to experience pleasure from sex when there is so much trauma attached to it? We have to give ourselves permission to acknowledge it, speak it, and move past it in a way that will allow us to experience pleasure by ourselves and with other partners.
Now, depending on the age, where you may experience some sort of sexual violation, you may not even know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Like I think under like 3 or it was like my babysitter's son. My babysitter's son. So she was off watching Young and the Restless or whatever, and he was like maybe like 11. He wasn't like, kids are sometimes, they're just mimicking what they see. They're not genuinely maybe trying to be harmful. And I don't remember being physically hurt. I just remember being touched.
Inappropriately.
Right. And I don't feel that I have any residual damage from that because, like I said, I wasn't like attacked or anything of that nature. And he was a child. But this is so common.
It's so common. I mean, I know very few women who have not experienced some sort of violation in their life. And it does leave trauma, and it's like we expect women to be able to have the same kind of experience that men have when it comes down to sex, but they're not given permission, and they have trauma attached to sex more often than men do. I mean, or at least, and I can't say that men don't experience trauma as well, but it's viewed differently. And as women, we're not given, we're just now getting permission through the Me Too movement to be able to talk about it, to receive that healing that we need as women, collectively, and to know that we're not alone. So, and then the next step, it's like, but that by itself is so essential to being able to experience sexual pleasure. Like, I remember when I was in college and I took a psych class, and it talked about, like, we were talking about sexual trauma, and they were saying that a lot of women who are raped either become frigid or they become promiscuous. And it's like, but what if there has to be a middle ground? There is a middle ground there. And it's like, who's to say that just because you experienced some sort of trauma that you absolutely have to become frigid as a response, or that your healthy sexual appetite is due to some sort of trauma. Like, we can't acknowledge that women are allowed to have these kinds of sexual feelings.
People have different personalities, different desires.
And it's hard. And also, it's like, from the time as Black and brown women, we are taught so much shame in attachment to our sexuality. From the time we're very young, it's like, you start developing, and all of a sudden you're a fast-ass little girl. But nobody's checking the grown-ass men who are looking at the 14, 15-year-old girls at the family reunion. It's like, these are the kinds of, it's like how about checking them as opposed to shaming these girls for coming into their own? Like, we're not, our relationship, our bodies are not meant strictly for bearing children. Like, they are, we have an organ that the other sex does not have. Whose purpose is strictly for pleasure. And if you think about it, sex is supposed to feel good. The only reason we continue to have children as a species and thrive as a species is because sex feels good. Because if it did not, we would not have children.
The population would be very, very thin.
Yes, we would have stopped having children a long time ago. So it's like, we have to stop putting so much shame and attachment to sex, so that women can have the most pleasure, the most enjoyment out of sex as they possibly can, and not feel so mechanical about it, not feel like it's an obligation, and do it out of joy and out of happiness and out of pleasure.
So I want to challenge tradition for a minute. Okay.
Yes.
A 36-year-old man, he's horny. He's like, I'm horny. I'm gonna go pick up, a lady of the evening. Pick up, whatever. We exchange, services, money, exchange.
Whatever.
He goes off, pleasure, whatever. 35-year-old woman, single, no husband. She's like, I want to get pleasure.
Yeah.
Where does she go?
I mean, that, there are male prostitutes just like there are, female prostitutes. I think that
Just
women...
not accepted. It's not widely
yeah,
accepted.
I mean, it's like, I think that the majority of male prostitutes, male sex workers, usually tend to service men. But because it's not as widely accepted for women to go and have sex with a man for money, but it does exist if a woman wanted to do that. It does exist. They just have to know where to look. And also, but I just had this conversation the other day.
So there's no website like I could call.
Yeah.
Be like, okay.
I mean, yes.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Right.
Yes and no. I think that the majority of the advertised male sex workers are really geared towards
homosexuals.
Men. Yeah, it's really geared towards men. But if you look, you can find it. Absolutely.
There's something out here for everybody,
There's something out here for everybody. I was just having a conversation a couple nights ago about happy ending massages. And, we were talking about how, the guys were explaining to another young guy about how you can go to some massage parlors and you can get, someone can jerk you off and give you, you can have an orgasm. And I chimed in to say that I actually experienced a happy ending here in New York City at a massage place from a guy. And it was a massage place that was all men. It was all Asian men. And I had been there many, many, many times. And one day I went in, because, if you've ever been to a massage place in New York City, you can get a fantastic massage and your back walked on for $49 for an hour.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so I had been, to this place a million times. And I went in one day and the guy asked me, he kept brushing my inner thigh a little bit higher and a little bit higher. And he asked me, he did like this, he made a motion. And I was like, yeah.
Keep going.
Keep going. Because I wanted to see if he was actually going to do it. Like, it's like,
You got it. These things don't happen to me. Like, I'm in the wrong massage parlor.
Right.
Sinnamon Love didn't invite me that day. Like, what? I just go, I get the steam room and da-da-da. But nobody says, Ty Phoenix, can we take this a step further? Nobody, I don't get those extra services. What am I doing wrong?
You know what? It's like, it was so interesting because I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, is he brushing my pussy? Like, is he brushing my pussy with his fingers? And so I wanted to see if he would do it. And he asked. He didn't just take it. He didn't just do it. It wasn't a violation. I mean, he kind of did like this, and he goes, "You want?" And I was like, "Sure." And so he removed my underwear and he masturbated me, just my clitoris. I had an orgasm, and then he finished my massage and gave me a foot rub. And I was like, this is great. And
I don't even have to call him tomorrow.
I don't have to call him tomorrow.
Oh, this is heaven. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it was actually. And then I had to figure out how much to tip him because I was
going to say that tip was nice.
I had to give him a decent tip. It wasn't 20. The regular 20% was not going to get it.
No.
But I feel like that. Yes, that doesn't happen nearly enough to where women have the access to those kinds of things. I think that for us, usually, I think there's also some sort of a blockage when it comes down to the idea of giving a man money for sex. It's like we already have issues with men living off of us, especially as black women. Like the last thing we want is to be paying some guy for sex. Like it's to me, it's so funny.
So taboo, right?
It's so taboo, and it's like even when you hear that Drake lyric where he's like, it's I shouldn't be fucking for sex so good I shouldn't have to fuck for free. And it's like to me, hearing a guy say that, it's like,
but the role reversal
get the fuck out of here.
In terms
I
of
need you to fuck me.
Sorry, New York City, always ambulances going.
Yes.
In terms of the role reversal of like my pussy costs money, my dick costs money. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody is saying now that their genitalia is worth $1 or more.
Yeah.
And I find that to be really interesting when you consider just the role reversal and just the change of perspective with respect to women and men and sexuality. And that's going to lead me to my next question.
Right.
Marriage versus being single. Well, single versus being in a relationship, and talk about that in terms of being alone, not alone, lonely versus alone. They're not the same thing.
Right.
Right.
I know you have a lot to, because her hashtag, if you follow her on social media, Single in Brooklyn.
That's right.
Where's that coming from?
So, I mean, I had been in a series of long relationships most of my life. I had periods of time when I was single, but I was always attached to someone. Like, you know, I would claim that I wasn't in a relationship, but I was in a relationship. Like, I was in a series of long relationships most of my life. A situationship. But I basically, you know, I had a point when I realized I had been in a relationship, in one long relationship, basically since 1987. Like, I couldn't remember a time when I wasn't in a relationship with someone. And I just, after my last long-term relationship ended, I came to a point when I was just like, you know what, I want to have sex. I want to date. I consider myself to be polyamorous. And, you know, or ethically non-monogamous is what I call it.
Okay.
And there's absolutely no reason, I don't have to be lonely to be single. I can still date, I can still go out, I can still hang out with people, I can still have a great time, I can still have sex, I can do whatever I want to do. I don't have to be in a relationship with somebody. You know, I spent the greater part of 5 years in my last relationship really focused on someone else's needs and not my own. And not just my partner, but also my family, my children, my grandson. And I needed to really focus on myself for a while. I helped my partner build a business and I helped him build his brand, but I didn't take and I stopped focusing on self.
Okay.
And so it was super, super, super important to me to get back to the core of who I was as a human being. And I think that as women, we get so caught up in the new relationship energy of our, you know, of a relationship, that we stop hanging out with our friends. We stop participating in our hobbies. We stop doing everything that, you know, we stop spending time alone, because whatever spare time we get, we want to spend it with our partner, not with other people, not with our, you know, maybe family if you're really close to your family, but you don't hang out with your girls. You know, it's almost a joke amongst women. You always know when somebody's got a new man because
they disappear.
And it's like, and the same thing goes with just our relationship with ourselves. That relationship with ourselves disappears when we get into a relationship. And, you know, and rightfully so. I mean, we have been trained our whole life that our value as women comes with having a partner. And so, you know, I had to get back in touch with, like I said, the core of who I am as a human being, and get back to work. Not in the porn industry, because I'm not doing porn anymore, but just get back to focus on my own brand, my own business, paying my own bills, as opposed to having, you know, cohabitating and paying bills with a partner, and getting back to the things that I love to do. And so, you know, hashtag single in Brooklyn, like, I'm having the time of my life.
Okay.
You know, it's like, I don't have to, you know, I'm not sitting at home, you know, crying over a relationship that's gone. And I'm also not in a rush to get back into another relationship either. The relationship with myself is so important. And I hate to say it like that, because, you know, sometimes you hear people say, you know, when you get out of a relationship, you need to spend time alone so you can really get to know yourself. Well, The thing is, I know who I am. As a woman, as a human being, as an artist, I know exactly who I am.
Right.
And I know that the problem wasn't me, because I'm okay. I'm a good person. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I may not have been right for him, but I'm not the problem. I just wasn't right for him, and vice versa. So getting back to, you know, whether it's a day, you know, I believe whether you spend a day alone or a year alone, you know, not in a relationship, it doesn't really matter how long that time is. It just matters that you get back to who you are and get back to doing the things that you like to do.
Right.
Like, I remember there was a point in my relationship when I stopped going out by myself. But when I met him, I used to go out all the time.
Okay.
We met in a club, and I was by myself. And it's like, and I used to, because I know people, and I go, you know, I'd go to this party and go to this concert and go do this, and I used to be by myself all the time. Yeah. And I remember there was a point in my relationship when I was like, why don't you take me out anymore? I'm gonna go out with you. Like, I can't just be going out with other people, like, by myself all the time. Blah 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 blah. Like, I was so scared of what people would think of me being out by myself because I was such and such person's woman, and not wanting, not thinking it was appropriate for me to be out by myself, that I stopped doing it. Do you know what I'm saying? And then when as soon as the relationship was over, I was like, wait a minute. Like, and also, like, in this conversation with him, I remember saying, I don't have any friends. I only go out with you. And it was true. I stopped going out with other people. I stopped communicating with my friends. And the minute the relationship was over, all of these women, like, showed up in my life. And I was like, wait a minute. I do have friends. I do have relationships. Right. I had relationships other than that one relationship that I was in. I just wasn't nurturing them. And so much of being single in Brooklyn is about not just nurturing the relationship with myself, but nurturing the relationship with the other people in my life. And then when someone comes along, they are filling time, but not necessarily a space. I can choose
because you're not empty.
I'm not empty, and I can choose to spend my time with them. And
because you can be empty and be in a relationship.
Absolutely, and you could be sitting right next to somebody and be lonely as fuck.
Right.
And you can be in a room by yourself and be completely full and completely happy. So it's like I don't feel the need to go jump in another relationship because I'm not looking for somebody to fill me up. I am full.
Right.
It's like I can, and when someone comes along and they're like, hey, let's go to dinner, let's go out, let's go do this, let's go catch the show, let's do whatever. It's like I can feel good about spending that time with them and not feel desperate for their time.
Clingy,
not feel desperate for their attention. Not, I can go days without hearing from somebody and be like, oh, I haven't heard from so-and-so, and text them and feel good about the fact that I know that they're busy, they have their life, I'm busy, I have my life, but when we come together, we truly enjoy each other, not out of obligation.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's the biggest, that to me is one of the biggest problems that we have in the way that our modern relationships are built. The biggest lie that we tell each other when you get married is that now two people become one. Two people don't become one. Two people are still
going in that grave by yourself.
You go in that grave by yourself. Two people are still two. You can come together with another person. Two people are still two people. You could be on the same path, but you don't become the same person. No. You both still have autonomy.
Well, to me, that's what should make a relationship exciting, is that I'm this unique individual that had my own purpose and my own blueprint when I came here.
That's right.
And you have yours.
That's
and
right.
We saw something interesting in each other's blueprints, and we came together to enhance, inspire, not to wipe away or not to diminish who we are. And that's the best thing.
We try to merge with another person, and we've all made the mistake. We've all done it.
Yeah.
And it's but that becomes very challenging because men view it as us being clingy. We view it as being necessary because that's what we've been taught from the time we are children that we are supposed to do. We are, as women, we are programmed that from
Barbie and Ken,
from Disney, from Nala and Simba, you are supposed to be together. You were put here on this earth to be together, and we spend our whole lives searching for that one, for that person, because we are taught that our sole value as women comes from being partnered. We are not given the permission to be alone, to not have a partner, to not be, even when you look at like the old school view of the woman, the aunt that doesn't get married, who winds up being alone. We're taught very, very early on that our goal as women is supposed to be partnered with another person. That is all we're taught. I mean, yes, we're taught that you can get an education. I mean, slavery has taught us
because no one wants to die alone.
No one wants to die alone. No one wants to be found in their apartment, a year later, after you died. I don't know if you've seen that documentary.
Yes, I know about that. And she wasn't 80.
No, she was not 80.
You know what I mean? So,
and even with that shows that the disconnect to community, to friends, to family was there. Who is not? I know that if my sister does not hear from me, she's gonna call everybody that I know to find out.
Right.
Where have you talked to Camila? Have you talked to her? Where's she doing? My sisters will call each other, and then they will FaceTime. They will, and I'm like, I'm okay. I'm just chilling. I've been working a lot. I'm sorry, I haven't heard from you. But how do you get to that point where nobody's checking for you? It doesn't have to be a partner. It just has to be someone who loves
gives a fuck.
Who gives a fuck. Absolutely. And that doesn't have to be a man. That doesn't have to be another woman. That doesn't have to. It's nice to have that. It's like the icing on the cupcake, but it's so not necessary.
So, what advice would you give to someone who's in a partnership, but they feel like maybe they've lost aspects of themselves, or there are aspects of themselves that they want to explore and discover, but they don't want to offend their partner, or they don't want to feel like they're isolating their partner.
Right.
What advice would you give to that person?
Therapy.
Therapy?
Absolutely. I think that therapy is so underrated. I think that we need that as Black women especially, we need therapy.
I'm in school for therapy right now, right?
Are you really?
Yeah, NYU.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I fully agree.
Yeah,
I support this message.
Yeah, I really think that therapy is necessary, and we carry the generational trauma of family separation and and slavery, and all of the things that we're carrying with us. It's so hard as and this is a sidebar. How funny is it that we expect women to be in relationships that last forever, but there is this generational trauma of our ancestors having their families torn apart and not being allowed to keep their children, or being even or staying married or getting married. Like how funny is it that we expect the modern woman to be able to do something that our ancestors couldn't even achieve because it wasn't allowed by law? So that's just a sidebar, right? So, but I think therapy. You have to go into therapy. I think you have to take the time. If you're not into sports and your partner is, instead of sitting there making a bunch of food and sitting there watching it and you don't really want to, take that time to go do something with your girls or do something by yourself. Having that communication, not dragging your partner to go to a museum with you if he's not really into art.
Yeah.
Not dragging him to go shopping.
Because you don't have to be twins. You have to be personality twins.
You don't have to be that. And there are plenty of opportunities, I think, for us to have, again, autonomy in our relationships and still be true to self. But I think that most of that first step, you have to come back to taking care of yourself.
Now, on the flip side, what advice would you give to someone who's single? And they say, my life is so unidimensional, it's so empty, I need to meet someone, I don't know, I need to go out to social events, or I just don't feel complete. What advice would you give that person?
I think that that you have to really explore why you feel empty. What is it that you're really missing? Is it touch? Is it affection? Is it the love from your father that you didn't have, like because he wasn't there? Like, what are you really truly looking for? If it is your biological clock ticking, and so you just feel like, if I don't find a partner, I'm not going to be able to have kids because I'm 44 years old or I'm 38 years old and my eggs are getting old and I need to have a baby right now.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Like, I tell women all the time, like, I think as Black women, we need to start exploring the option of freezing our eggs so that we can extend that timeline for us to be able to have kids. Because when we do that, we don't wind up in bad relationships relationships, stay in bad relationships, rush into a relationship with someone just so that we can have a baby because our biological clock is ticking and our family's asking, when are you getting married? When are you having a baby? Like, do you know what I'm saying? If you just want to have a reception, buy a dress and throw a party and invite all your girls. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's really that easy.
Yeah, it is.
Celebrate all of the moments in your life so that you don't feel like you have to have that big party with all of your people. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
every day should be a party.
Every day should be a party. And you know, taking your time to feel your best, look your best, be the best person that you can be for yourself. Date yourself. Date yourself. Because let me tell you, my calendar is full. It is very full. And I still, like, I mean, I still make time for other people. Like, you know, right now I'm dating 5 people. And I'm having a great time.
And she said it on camera, which means that she don't got nothing to hide.
I don't have nothing to hide.
A lot of people can take notes from Camilla Rouse, okay?
they all are aware that I'm not, you know, we're not in relationship.
Not exclusive.
We're not exclusive. And it's like, if, you know, it's okay for men to date around if they're not exclusive, you know, but it's like, I'm not rushing to try to get into a relationship. But I also have very clear expectations also. Like, I'm not going to spend the night with someone. Like, I might go over, he can make me dinner, we can have sex, but when the night is over, I'm going home to my own bed. I don't feel the need to lay up with somebody and pretend like this is something that it's not. We don't want to be in a relationship. Let's keep the lines very clear.
I like thick blankets. You got one little thin sheet here.
That's right.
We got to come to some type
I got, you know, I like my bed. Like,
right,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I got a pillow top.
I got the silly seated, you know, the memory foam. I got all that. I'm real spoiled over here.
And I'm not trying to change your environment to make me comfortable either. I'd rather spend that money on my own environment and making my own home comfortable so that I don't have to feel like I have to go over to your place so that I can lay up and watch television or lay up in your comfy bed or whatever the case might be. Like, you might have, you know, like, top shelf whiskey at your crib. Well, guess what? I do too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to be in someone else's space just so that I can feel whole and complete. It's nice to have that, but it's
and those people have the best relationships.
And those people have the best relationships. Absolutely.
Now, back to the whole issue of challenging tradition. There's somebody who's going to watch this interview and say, no, a woman is made to be a helpmeet to a man. A woman, that's, you know, a religious term.
Yeah, of course.
A woman is made to be a wife to a husband. This mindset, this entire philosophy is destructive.
Yeah.
You're here to serve him. To
people say it all the time.
So to that person, you say,
I say that 55% of all marriages fail and end in divorce.
Ouch.
So it's like we can. It's, you know, I look at.
We're both divorced.
We're both divorced, and it's like, you know, and I look at, you know, our, you know. Oh, they see people say, oh, well, you know, my grandparents have been married for 57 years. It's like, yes, and your grandmother endured other women, a whole other family down the block, and, you know, him talking to her crazy, and yet they're still together. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like just because you stay together doesn't mean that it's a healthy relationship.
And why do you necessarily want to duplicate your grandmother or your great-grandmother's life?
Right.
You don't have the same purpose. You may not have the same agenda in life.
Their purpose was to be a conduit through which you came into being, not for you to duplicate their past. Your purpose is to be a conduit in which your descendants can come into being, and you want them to live the best possible life that they possibly can. Your grandmother might have had to stay in a relationship because women didn't have the right to vote, couldn't work outside the household. Well, except for black women, because we always worked outside the household in other people's houses. However, but you know what I'm saying? It's like their purpose and their freedoms were different than ours.
It's like, stop bringing up your grandmother.
Right. It's like, what about
your grandmother wasn't in the club.
What about you?
You're in the club. Like, your grandmother.
Right.
First of all, it's a different time frame.
Right.
So you're not going to transplant 1958 onto 2018.
And let's face it, black and brown people really didn't have very much rights in 1958.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
The family was the
family
needed support structure.
The family needed support structure. And so it's like, do we need a family support structure now? Yes, absolutely. I think that it is best for children to have, more than one parent. But the whole idea of a village being necessary to raise a child is because family is not forever. Even family is not forever. You look at you look at Mike Brown. You look at, he was out there making money to to feed his family, and now he's gone. And then what happens to his family? It's like it takes the village to raise those children, to take care of the rest of those people. We are not we've never been solely dependent on just one partner to be able to provide for self. Or to provide for our family. So we have to stop feeding ourselves this narrative that just because you get married, that means that your family, your children are going to be taken care of for the rest of your life. That's not the way it works. We're dealing with so much more. Like, systemic oppression has always prevented our family structure from being the traditional, Eurocentric view of what a family structure is. So let's stop making believe that that's what's necessary for a black woman to be able to have children. Black women have been raising children on their own since the slave ships crossed over
and before.
So let's keep it funky and and really keep it real. Like, it's like we're trying, we allow people to tell us that, to use this Judeo-Christian idea of what a family is, when our lives and our lineage and our ancestry has never been that. So it's like you're expecting people to live up to what a system that was created to oppress women, children, and people of color. That's not, I can't possibly, look at that and say, okay, so I'm supposed to be submissive to my partner because the Bible said so. Well, the Bible also said that it was okay to have slaves. So am I supposed to, to go back to being a slave too? I don't think so. I'm not going to cherry pick what parts of it I'm going to believe in.
You're going to ride for it?
Ride all the way. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that the Bible said was cool.
And not everybody is subscribed to Judeo-Christian philosophy.
Philosophy and values. Absolutely.
Yeah. So on that note, wow. I'm going to close out. I've learned,
I know, we could talk
the whole point of the Abyss is that you learn something. They say in order to heal, you got to deal. In order to deal, you got to get real. Mm-hmm. So that's what we do here on the Abyss. We go in, I put it all on the table. I don't think I've ever shared that with anyone, maybe people close to me.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for being personal, up close and personal about your relationships, about your profession in the sex industry.
Absolutely.
And for being a sex educator, because clearly we don't know everything that we need to know about our own bodies, about what pleases us. And this conversation could literally go on.
It could go on
ad
forever.
infinitum.
Yeah.
It could.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Camilla Rouse, Sinnamon Love, for being on the Abyss. And
thank you for having me.
Maybe I'm like, damn, should she come back?
I got
questions. Because I want to know where that massage parlor is at. No,
I went back recently to try to find it, and it was closed down. So I was very heartbroken.
They shut him down, girl. Because you know that happens, right? The police bust up. That happened to someone I know.
All the time.
Girl, can I tell a story real quick? Woman was doing yoga, looked across, the street, whatever, saw her husband going in this parlor. Come to find out it was a whole sex industry behind. They got busted, everything. He got busted for cheating on her.
Of course.
But, I mean, the whole idea of massage parlors covering for
sex trade.
But that didn't happen to you.
No.
You just got pleasured.
I just got pleasured. That was fun. I mean, and it's interesting that these kinds of places don't exist in mass for women. Because I remember going to a massage place which I Googled that did provide, happy ending massages.
And they advertised it.
It wasn't advertised, but I found, there are places online where you can find out information about how to find different things, right?
Right.
So I Googled, happy ending massage parlors in New York City. And I found one, and my partner and I went to, my former partner and I went to this place as a couple, because I was like, let's go see if we can get, we can get one together.
A package deal.
And they did not offer us one because I went with him. And so I thought that was really interesting that because we went in as a couple, they didn't offer us one.
Single in Brooklyn.
Single in Brooklyn.
And that's our hashtag, Single in Brooklyn.
Hashtag Single in Brooklyn.
Tell them where to follow you, find you.
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Sinnamon Love, Sinnamon with an S, and singleinbrooklyn.com. Make sure you check it out.
And Instagram.com/Ty Phoenix, Facebook Ty Phoenix. The Abyss. See you next time.